Hello students, Jinali Shah welcomes you on behalf of Saraswat International Academy. Today we will begin with the next part of the chapter Reproductive Health. Today we will learn regarding the contraceptive methods. Now what do you mean by the term contraceptive methods? Those methods which prevent the unwanted births or pregnancies, they are called as the contraceptive methods, and the voluntary use of these contraceptive methods to prevent the fertilization or to prevent the implantation of the fertilized egg in the uterus is termed as birth control. We have already studied the characteristics of ideal contraceptive. What are those characteristics? It should be user friendly, it should be easily available, it should be with the least side effects, and it should not interfere with the sexual drive of the user. So this is regarding the contraceptive methods, birth control. Now, which are the various contraceptive methods? As you can see the chart, you can see that various birth control methods are mentioned. So birth control methods are broadly categorized into two. One is the temporary method and another one is the permanent method. So what do you mean by temporary method? The method once used, if it is used again, the person can conceive. But if the permanent method of the contraception is used, then it have the poor reversibility. It means once used, the female cannot become pregnant again. Now, these temporary methods are broadly divided into three categories: natural methods, barrier methods, and intrauterine devices. Now, there are four types of the natural method: periodic abstinence or rhythm method, continuous abstinence, coitus interruptus, and lactational amenorrhea. When we talk about barrier methods, there are three ways: chemical barriers, mechanical barriers, and the hormonal barriers. These are the examples of the chemical barriers like foaming tablets, melting suppositories, jellies, and creams. When we talk about the mechanical method, it consists the use of the condom and the diaphragm. Then hormonal methods are again divided into two categories. One is oral contraceptives and another one is the subcutaneous implants. In oral contraceptives, these are the examples: mini pills, Saheli, etc. When we talk about the intrauterine devices, which is the third temporary method of contraception, it is further divided into three types: non-medicated IUDs, hormonal releasing IUDs, and copper releasing IUDs. These are the examples of the hormonal releasing IUDs: Progestasert and LNG20. And these are the examples of the copper releasing IUDs like copper T380A, Nova T, copper 7, copper T380AG, Multilode 375, etc. So this is the chart showing the temporary methods of contraception. Now there are two methods of the permanent one. So permanent methods include tubectomy and the vasectomy. Now children, we will study all these methods in detail. So first we will begin with the natural methods of the contraception. So now the natural methods of contraception, they work on the principle of avoiding the chances of ovum and sperms meeting. So basically how this method of contraception work? It works on the principle that the chances of meeting of the ovum and sperm should be avoided. Now if ovum and sperm does not meet, there won't be fertilization. No fertilization means no implantation, and no implantation means no pregnancy. So this is the general principle of the natural methods of contraception. Now natural methods of contraception can be broadly divided into four types: periodic abstinence or rhythm method, continuous abstinence, coitus interruptus or withdrawal method, and lastly lactational amenorrhea. Now first of all, the periodic abstinence or rhythm method. Now first of all, what do you mean by the term abstain? Abstain means to avoid. So what is periodic abstinence? So periodic abstinence is a method in which the couples avoid or abstain from coitus. Coitus means sexual intercourse. From the day 10 to 7 of the menstrual cycle when ovulation could be expected. So basically what is periodic abstinence? Abstinence means to avoid. So normally the couples, they avoid the sexual intercourse from the day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle, because it is during this period when the ovulation is expected. Now, if the couple abstain from the coitus during this period, then the chances of the conception would be prevented. Now, as the chances of fertilization are very high during this period is called as the fertile period. Now, we know that normally in the menstrual cycle, 14th day is for the ovulation. So, it is the day where ovulation will take place. So, normally the couples, they avoid the sexual intercourse during the day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle. Avoiding the coitus during this period, what would happen? The conception could be prevented. And as ovulation occur during this period, as the chances of ovulation is from day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle, the rate of the fertilization are very high during this period, and hence this period is also called as the fertile period. Now, ovum, we know it survives for 2 days, and sperms, it remains alive for about 72 hours in the female reproductive tract. So, therefore, by abstaining the coitus during this period, conception could be prevented. So, what do you mean by the periodic abstinence method? Normally, the couples, they avoid the sexual intercourse. They abstain from the coitus from the day 10 to 17 of the menstrual cycle, during which the ovulation is expected. Now, next method is the continuous abstinence method. Now, what do you mean by continuous abstinence? As I told you, abstinence means to abstain. To abstain means to avoid. So, basically the couples, they abstain from sexual intercourse. The couples, they avoid the sexual intercourse. And if they avoid the sexual intercourse, of course, there won't be the chances of the conception. So, continuous abstinence is the most simplest and the reliable way to avoid pregnancy. And what does it mean? It means not to have a coitus for a defined period that facilitates conception. It is to abstain from the sexual intercourse. Normally, the couples practice abstinence at the certain times with success. They decide certain period during which the couples abstain from the coitus. So, that is called as the continuous abstinence. Now, next is coitus interruptus, or also it is called as the withdrawal method. So, now what do you mean by the term coitus interruptus? Coitus, as I told you, it means sexual intercourse, and interruptus means interrupt, to have some interruption. So, during the sexual intercourse, there will be the interruption, and that is called as the coitus interruptus. We will see what does it mean. So, here, this method is the oldest way of the family planning. Here, the male will withdraw his penis from the vagina of the female before ejaculation, thereby preventing the deposition of the semen into vagina, which means they avoid the insemination. So, here, the male partner will withdraw his penis from the vagina of the female before ejaculation. And what will happen? As he withdraws his penis from the female's vagina, what will happen? There won't be the deposition of the semen into the vagina of the female, and thus it avoids insemination. As semen have not entered into the vagina of the female, there won't be the chances of the fertilization. and as the male withdraws his penis from the vagina of the female, this method is also called as the withdrawal method. Why it is called as coitus interruptus? Because there is interruption at the time of the sexual intercourse. Now the next method is the lactational amenorrhea. Lactational amenorrhea. First of all, what do you mean by the term amenorrhea? Amenorrhea means absence of menstruation. So now, what happens during the lactational amenorrhea? How this principle works? How this method works? So basically, lactational. So when a mother is lactating, at that time normally the menstrual cycle is absent. And if menstrual cycle is absent, there is no chance of ovulation. No ovulation means the chances of conception are almost nil. So basically lactational amenorrhea, it is based on the fact that ovulation and the cycle, that is menstrual cycle, does not occur during the period of intense lactation following the parturition. Parturition is the childbirth or delivery of the baby. So it works on the principle that after parturition there will be the higher lactation in the mother, and at that time the ovulation and the menstrual cycle does not take place. As ovulation does not take place, even if the person undergoes the coitus during this period, the chances of conception are nil because there is no ovulation during this period. So, as long as the mother breast feeds the child fully, chances of conception are almost nil. Now, how it is possible? So, when the baby sucks the breast of the mother, that suckling stimulates the pituitary gland, and this stimulated pituitary gland secrete the hormone called as the prolactin. Why prolactin is secreted? In order to increase the production of the milk. So suckling by the baby stimulates the pituitary gland, which in turn releases the increased amount of prolactin which is required for the increased production of the milk. Now how this prolactin stops the process of the menstruation and ovulation? Now high prolactin in the mother's blood prevent the menstrual cycle by suppressing the release of the gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus and gonadotropin from the pituitary. Now how the prolactin hormone prevents the menstrual cycle? High amount of the prolactin, it suppresses the release of the gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus. So, prolactin have the effect on hypothalamus. It does not allow the hypothalamus to release gonadotropin releasing hormone. Now, as gonadotropin releasing hormone is not released from the hypothalamus, the gonadotropin hormone from the pituitary is also not released. Now there are two gonadotropins, one is FSH and another one is LH, that is follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Both these hormones are not released from the pituitary, and as a result the menstrual cycle will be prevented. So prolactin suppresses the release of the gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, and as the gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus is not secreted, then the gonadotropin is also not secreted from the pituitary, and as a result the menstruation stops. But it should be kept in mind that this method has been reported to be effective only up to the maximum period of 6 months following parturition. So this method is effective only up to 6 months after parturition. Though the baby feeds the mother milk for 1 year, 2 years, but this method will be effective only up to the 6 months following the parturition. So that was regarding the natural methods of contraception. Now we will deal with the barrier methods of contraception. So now, again, on what principle does this barrier methods work? So it works on the principle that the ovum and sperms, they are prevented from meeting so that the fertilization does not occur. So again it works on the same principle on which the natural methods were working. Here also the sperms and ovums are prevented from meeting so that the fertilization does not occur. If fertilization does not occur, then the implantation won't occur, and if implantation won't occur, there won't be the pregnancy. Now it is broadly divided into 4 parts: chemical barriers, mechanical barriers, hormonal barriers, and intrauterine devices. So first of all, we will deal with the chemical barriers. Now these chemical barriers are available in the form of foaming tablets, melting suppositories, jellies and creams. So basically these all things like tablets, suppositories, jellies and creams, they are used as the chemical agents which inactivate the sperms in the vagina of the female. So basically all these chemical barriers, that is tablets, melting suppositories, jellies, creams, etc., they are introduced into the female vagina before the sexual intercourse. So just before the coitus, these barriers are introduced into the vagina of the female. Now all the barriers, they contain the chemicals that inactivate the sperms, and as the sperms are inactivated, their chances of meeting with the ovum are nil, and thus fertilization does not take place. So now the chemicals which are found in foaming tablets or melting suppositories or jellies or creams, they basically act as the spermicidal agents or surface active agents. Spermicidal, cidal, it means killing. So they are the agents which kill the sperms. So chemicals basically act as the spermicidal agents, that is they may kill the sperm, or they act as the surface active agent. So what do you mean by surface active agents? They are the agents which attach themselves to the sperms and inhibit the oxygen uptake by the sperms and kill the sperms. So the surface active agent attached to the surface of the sperms and does not allow the sperms to take the oxygen, and as the sperms do not take the oxygen, they will die. So that is regarding the chemical barriers. They are available in the form of foaming tablets, melting suppositories, jellies and creams, and they are introduced into the vagina of the female before the sexual intercourse. They contain the chemicals which act as the spermicidal agents or the surface active agents which attach to the surface of the sperms, does not allow the sperm to take the oxygen and will kill the sperms. Now the next method is the mechanical barrier. So when we talk about the mechanical barrier, two structures are there. One is condoms and another one is the diaphragms. So first of all, regarding the condoms. So condoms, they are the thin sheath which is used to cover the penis in the male, whereas in the female it is used to cover the vagina and the cervix just before the coitus, so as to prevent the entry of the ejaculated semen into the female reproductive tract. So basically, first of all, you should remember that the condoms are available for the men as well as for the women. When we talk about the male condoms, they cover the penis, whereas in the female it covers the vagina and cervix. They are introduced before the coitus so that the ejaculated semen will it will prevent the entry of the ejaculated semen into the female reproductive tract, and this will in turn prevent the conception. If the semen does not enter into the female reproductive tract, of course, what will happen is the sperms won't enter into the fallopian tube and no fertilization will take place. No fertilization, no conception. Nirodh is a popular brand of the condom for the males, and the female condoms, they are also called as the Femidoms. Condoms, they should be discarded after the single use. Now condoms not only prevent the conceptions, but they have the additional effects too. They act as the safeguard for the diseases like AIDS and STDs. So they safeguard the user from AIDS and STDs. It prevents the user from the diseases like AIDS and STDs, which means sexually transmitted diseases. Normally the condoms are made up of thin rubber or the latex sheath. Now this is the male condom and this one is the female condom. Now in the mechanical barriers, the another one is the diaphragms, cervical caps and vault. But these all structures, they are used by the females. When we talked about condom, it is used by both males and females. But diaphragm, cervical caps and vaults, they are only used by the females. They are made up of rubber and they are inserted into the female reproductive tract to cover the cervix before the coitus in order to prevent the sperms from entering the uterus through the cervix. So basically diaphragm, cervical caps and vaults, they are introduced into the cervix of the, or basically they cover the cervix of the female and they should be used before coitus. If the cervix is covered, the sperms won't enter the uterus through the cervix. So this is a vault, this is a cervical cap and this is a diaphragm. All of the three will be introduced into the cervix of the female. Now the hormonal barriers. So basically what is the principle for the hormonal barriers? So it prevents the ovaries from releasing the ova and it also thickens the cervical fluid, which keeps the sperm away from the ovum. So it shows two effects. First of all, it will prevent the ovulation and it also thickens the cervical fluid, which does not allow the sperm to move to the ovum. The basically thickened cervical fluid does not allow the motility of the sperms, and if the sperms do not move, they won't move towards the ovum. Now there are two ways of the hormonal barriers: oral contraceptives and subcutaneous implants. So first of all, the oral contraceptives. How oral contraceptives are used? So basically it is the oral administration of small doses of either progestogens or the progestogen-estrogen combination. So basically what is progestogen? It is a natural or synthetic steroid hormone like progesterone that will maintain the pregnancy and it will also prevent the ovulation. So basically oral administration of small doses of either progestogen or progestogen estrogen combination, and it is the method which is used only by the females. Now this small doses of progestogen or progestogen estrogen combination, they are used in the form of the tablets and hence they are popularly called as the pills. Now how these pills should be used? So basically pills have to be taken daily for a period of 21 days, starting preferably within the first 5 days of the menstrual cycle. After a gap of 7 days, it has to be repeated in the same pattern till the female desires to prevent the conception. So basically it should be taken for a period of 21 days. After that 7 days gap should be taken, and again it should be repeated for the again 21 days till the female desires to prevent the conception. Now, how it is to be taken? So it should be started preferably within the first 5 days of the menstrual cycle. Then after a gap of 7 days during which the menstruation occur, it has to be repeated. Till how much period it needs to be repeated? Till the woman desires to prevent the conception. Now on what principle the oral contraceptives work? So basically they inhibit the ovulation, they inhibit the implantation, as well as they alter the quality of the cervical mucus to prevent or retard the entry of the sperms. So these pills, they inhibit the ovulation as well as implantation, as well as they also alter or change the quality of the cervical mucus or cervical fluid to prevent the entry of the sperms. Because if the quality of the cervical mucus changes, the sperms are unable to move within the female reproductive tract. Now these pills are very effective with lesser effects and are easily accepted by the females. Now Saheli, which is a new oral contraceptive for the females, it contains the non-steroidal preparation, whereas pills which we have studied now, it was a combination of progestogen, estrogen or progestogen alone, but both of these are the steroidal preparation. But Saheli, it is a non-steroidal preparation and it is once a week pill, whereas other pills need to be taken for 21 days. As it is a non-steroidal preparation, it has a very few side effects, but the contraceptive value is very high. Now the next one is the subcutaneous implants. So they are the injections or implants which are given under the skin. Sub, that is below, and cutaneous means skin. So progestogens alone or in combination with estrogen, they can be also used by females as injections or implants under the skin. So instead of oral contraceptives, progestogen or its combination with estrogen can be used by the female in the form of injections or the implants taken under the skin. Now their mode of action is similar to that of pills. That is, they work on the same principle as the pills work, and we know that pills work on the principle that it prevents ovulation, it prevents implantation, and it also alters the quality of the cervical mucus, which retards the entry of the sperm. And same is the principle for the subcutaneous implants. But their effective periods are much more longer compared to the pills. So that is regarding the subcutaneous implants. Now, administration of progestogens or progestogen-estrogen combination or IUDs within 72 hours of the coitus have been found to be very effective as emergency contraceptives, as they could be used to avoid the possible pregnancy due to rape or casual unprotected sexual intercourse. Suppose rape have been taken place and at that time pregnancy needs to be avoided. So there is a need of the emergency contraceptives. So what can be used as the emergency contraceptives in the case of rape or casual unprotected sexual intercourse? So at that time progestogen or the combination of progestogen with estrogen or IUDs, if taken within the period of 72 hours of the coitus, then they prove to be very effective and the chances of the pregnancy could be avoided. So, if we want to avoid the pregnancy due to the rapes or casual unprotected sexual intercourse. At that time, progestogen or progestogen estrogen or IUDs should be used within the 72 hours of the coitus. So now these are the subcutaneous implants. Normally they occur in the form of the 6 matchstick sized sticks, and these sticks would be introduced below the skin. So these are the subcutaneous implants. Now the last temporary method is the intrauterine devices. So it is again the effective and popular method of the contraception. Now these intrauterine devices are introduced into, the name itself suggests, intra, inside, uterine, uterus. So these are the devices which are inserted into the uterus through the vagina, but they cannot be inserted by ourselves. They should be either inserted by doctors or by the expert nurses. And where are they inserted? They are inserted into the uterus through the vagina. Now these intrauterine devices are available in 3 forms. Non-medicated IUDs, that is they do not release anything. Then the copper releasing IUDs, they are the IUDs which release the copper ions, and hormone releasing IUDs which releases the hormones. So example of the non-medicated IUDs is lips loops. Then copper releasing IUD are copper T, copper 7, multilode 375, and hormone releasing IUDs are progestasert and LNG 20. Now on what principle the IUDs work? How the IUDs prevent contraception, or how do they prevent the pregnancy? So they increase the phagocytosis of the sperm within the uterus. So basically they kill or they phagocytose the sperms into the uterus. And the copper releasing IUDs, they release the copper. This released copper suppresses the motility of the sperm, as well as it suppresses the fertilizing capacity of the sperms. So basically it causes the phagocytosis of the sperms in uterus, and copper releasing IUDs, they also suppress the motility of the sperm and fertilizing capacity of the sperms. Now apart from the above 2 effects, hormone releasing IUDs also have the additional effect. So what is the additional effect of the hormone releasing IUDs? It makes the uterus unsuitable for implantation. So it makes the changes in the uterus in such a way that that uterus becomes unsuitable for implantation. And if no implantation, no pregnancy. And it also makes the cervix hostile or unfriendly to the sperms. It also makes the changes in the cervix, and this changed cervix does not suit the sperms. So that is the additional effect of the hormone releasing IUDs. Now IUDs, they are the ideal contraceptives for the female who want to delay pregnancy or to space the children. To space the children means the gap between the 2 children. It is one of the most accepted methods of contraception in our country. So these are the diagram. This is a copper T, this is a multilode 375. Both of these are the copper releasing IUDs, Lipislop, which is a non-medicated IUDs, and the progestasert, which is a hormone releasing IUD. Now lastly, the permanent methods of contraception. Now these methods are also called as the surgical methods, or they are the sterilization methods. Now basically they are the permanent method, which means the reversibility of this method is very poor. So surgical method, or also called as the sterilization, are generally advised by the male or female partner as a terminal method to prevent any more pregnancies. So if a male or female partner does not want to have any further pregnancies, then this method of contraception can be used. It is a terminal method to prevent any more pregnancies. Now, on what principle it works? So, surgical intervention blocks the gamete transport and thereby prevent the conception. So, gametes, after they are formed, their transportation is blocked, and as the transportation of the gamete is blocked, they could not move, and if they could not move, there won't be the chances of the conception. Now, this procedure, sterilization procedure in the male is called as vasectomy, whereas in female it is called as the tubectomy. Now, this technique is highly effective, but reversibility is very, very poor. So, first of all, vasectomy. So, it is a surgical method performed in the males. So, here how this procedure is performed. So, small part of the vas deferens, it is removed or tied up through a small incision on the scrotum to prevent the entry of the sperm into the urethra. So, first of all, small cut will be made in the scrotum. Through the cut, the vas deferens is removed and later it is tied. So, here you can see the vas deferens which is tied and cut. So, testes which will produce the sperms, it will move till here. But here, as there is a cut and there is a, as the vas deferens is cut and tied, the sperms cannot move into the urethra. The sperms cannot move into the urethra, and thus as the sperm does not enter into the urethra, the semen won't contain the sperms. Next one is the tubectomy. So here the small part of the fallopian tube is removed or tied up through the small incision in the abdomen or through the vagina. So a small cut would be made into the abdomen or the vagina of the female, and then the fallopian tube, like vas deferens of the female, is cut and tied. Now whatever ovum produced by the ovary, when it comes into the fallopian tube, as here there is a cut and it is tied, the ovum cannot move further and no chances of conception are there. So that is regarding the tubectomy. Now this is general for all the contraceptive methods. It needs to be emphasized that selection of the suitable contraceptive method and its use should always be undertaken in the consultation with the qualified medical professional. So which contraceptive method to be used? For that we should always consult a qualified medical professionals. One must remember that contraceptives are not regular requirements for the maintenance of the reproductive health. You should keep in mind that contraceptives are not the regular requirement to maintain the reproductive health. In fact, they are practiced against the natural reproductive event, that is conception or pregnancy. So basically the contraceptive methods, they are practiced against the natural reproductive event like conception and pregnancy. One is forced to use this method either to prevent the pregnancy or to delay the pregnancy or to space the pregnancy due to the personal reasons. No doubt, the widespread use of this method have significant role in checking the uncontrolled population growth. So basically, though this method have played the very important role in checking the uncontrolled growth of the population. But you should keep in mind that their possible ill effects like nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough bleeding, irregular menstrual bleeding, or even the breast cancer, though not very significant, should not be totally ignored. So there may be certain ill effects of the contraceptive methods like nausea, abdominal pain, breakthrough bleeding, irregular menstrual bleeding, even breast cancer. But this breast cancer is not very significant, but it should not be ignored. So these are the certain ill effects of using the contraceptive methods. So today we have learned regarding the various birth control methods or various methods of contraception. Here we come to the end of today's lecture. Next part we will be studying in the next video. Thank you, students.